cloud of witnesses are cheering on. Eagle fly, you were made to fly. There are no limitations here. Your king expects you now to fly.
Eagle, you are not a nobody. You belong to Yahweh. You are born of the Spirit of the living God. You are one with Yahweh. So rise up, you mighty man and woman of valor. Destiny awaits you. Don't you second guess yourself anymore. In Christ you have all it takes. So eagle, mount up and go in this your might. Eagle, rise up, it's time to take to flight. And tear down every lie that has tied you to the ground.
Those that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Now is your time, eagle fly. Shake off the dust that has gathered on you for so long. Step out of the darkness of shame you have wrapped yourself in. There is hope for the tree that is cut down, 'cause at the scent of water it shall spring back to life again. Eagle, you're a soldier in the army of God, and the host awaits your response to the clarion call. Can't you feel the same? They're steady in your belly as your father calls out to you now. Can you feel the burn of the fire long shut up in your bones? Eagle, can you feel the breaking of the dam within you as the rivers from your belly flow? Those that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up, spread your wings and
Eagle, stop giving excuses. Eagle, stop running from prayer. Eagle, Jesus is waiting. Eagle, stop playing around. Eagle, stop running from flight. The mountains are for waiting.
Just spend this moment to exercise your spirit. You can pray in the spirit, you can worship, you can just be silent and soak in the calm.
Eagles raise the dead. Eagles cleanse the lepers. The nations are waiting. Creation is groaning. Eagles arise and shine. Your light has come. Or don't you remember? You were made for the skies. You're the king of the skies.
Yeah. Somebody tell him. Without the no throne. Can somebody just wrap your arms around you and just bask in this revelation? You better tell him. No throne without the cross. There'll be no sacrifice without your blood. All this you did for me. Lift it up. No throne without a There's no sacrifice without your blood. All this you did for me. No me without you. Say no throne without a cross. Yeah, there's no sacrifice without all this you did for me.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. All right. I welcome everyone again to another moment in the presence of the Lord. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I would like you to confirm if you can see me. I just stop sharing my screen. Could you confirm if you can hear my voice and you can see me? Okay, perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Welcome everyone to another session in the presence of the Lord. This is a safe space where the love of Jesus rules and where we just gather together to fellowship with one another, be vulnerable, to share, to learn, to grow and thrive together. At the Discovery Place, we have our mandate, which is to restore hope, to rebuild lives, and to raise leaders. So we are going to continue from last week. We started a new course last week, which is titled The Cost of Reconnection. And I was able to introduce us to the course last week. And we are going to delve a little bit into that this week. But before then, I will just give us a brief summary of what we did last week. Just give me a moment to share my screen as I want us to be able to see the summary of the first module. So this is the summary of what we discussed last week. We were able to establish the fact that currencies are meant to be spent on fulfilling purpose rather than just surviving. We looked at rather the concept of time, using the law of first mention to establish what currencies are really meant for. And we also saw that our deepest struggles often comes from disconnection, or what we commonly experience as rejection. You can use them interchangeably. We also saw that the busyness of life, the rush, the busyness of life might seem to hide the emptiness that we experience within. But despite the success and everything, we still find ourselves unsatisfied, unfulfilled. And then we saw that the trauma caused by rejection is a very deep trauma that touches every fiber of our being. It alters our sense of worth. It shapes our thoughts. It also distorts how we see God, ourselves, and others. So it gives us an identity that is completely different from our original design. And we established that in every person there is an inner void, an emptiness, a universal ache that longs for love, acceptance, and belonging. And we were able to see that this experience is common to everyone. We were able to look at the root of rejection going all the way back to the Garden of Eden, where it all began. The rejection that humanity suffered from that garden became a burden that each and every one of us carried, and maybe some of us are still carrying. And that's why we are here, so that we can support on the journey of unburdening, of letting go of those weights that no longer serve the journey of your life that you are currently working on. So, today I want to look at the hidden cost of disconnection. Because as much as we talk about reconnection or connection as a foundational need, and how that it is, when you look at it, we see people moving here and there, and it looks as though not having that connection doesn't really make much of a difference. I want to open our eyes to see the price that people pay on a daily basis as a result of disconnection. And then we are going to ask ourselves, is it worth the price? Because there is a cost for connection and there is a cost for disconnection. Then I will leave you to put them side by side to the end that you can ask yourself, which heart do you want to take? Which one is worth paying the price? Okay. And so that's what we are going to look at today, the hidden cost of disconnection. I will stop sharing my screen, and then you can see my face, and then so we can take it from there. Okay. So the hidden cost of disconnection. Now, I'm going to start by giving us an illustration, which to help us relate with what I'm about to bring us into. And this illustration talks about two travelers that said they are setting out on the same trail. They are about to embark on a journey. They've gone through the same preparation. You know, they have pretty much everything the same on the outside. They look almost identical. They have the same study boots. They have the same backpacks. They have the same determination. And everything on the outside assumed that they were equally ready. And so they started the journey. And a few meters into the journey, one of them began to slow down. His steps began to grow heavy. His shoulders began to sag. And soon he's, fighting for every breath, breathing heavily, tiredness, weariness are setting. But the other person keeps that steady pace and even enjoying the view. Now, at the first glance, you might label the one that is struggling as lazy. You might label him as being unfit, unwilling, unserious, or whatever adjective you want to use to qualify him for slowing down. But what you don't actually see is what is happening within. And in this case, within means the content of the backpack that both of them are carrying. They both have the same backpack, the same color, the same design. Everything seemed pretty the same on the outside until the content of each of their backpacks were unveiled. And it was realized that the one that was moving at a steady pace and enjoying the view was carrying only the essentials on their backpack, the things that were necessary for the journey in their backpack. Whereas when they opened the backpack of the other guy, the one that, slowed down and grew weary, they realized that his backpack was stuffed with heavy rocks. So although they prepared the same, they walked on the same road, but there is a hidden weight that changes everything for one of them. And this is an example of our walk through life. That many of us are walking through life with those rocks, and those rocks represent wounds that are not healed. Wounds from abandonment, from neglect, from abuse, wounds from criticism, from betrayal, and everything put together, wounds from rejection or disconnection. It's like carrying those rocks in our backpack. Those rocks, they don't just sit quietly in the backpack. They have the capacity to drain your strength. They have the capacity to veil your eyes and blur your focus and make every step feel harder than it should be. And so when we talk about healing from rejection or whatever wound it is that you may have sustained, whatever rock that you may be carrying in your backpack, when we talk about healing, we are not talking about you erasing the journey. You see that? But it talks about being able to lighten the load so you can walk in freedom. What are the things that you are carrying in your backpack that will not serve you on the journey? What are the extras that is weighing you down on the path of life? I hope we understand what I'm saying. And when you look at these extras, the question is not about just, forget about it. Because it's easy to say that, grow up, be a man, you need to be mature. You are so years of age now. You can't be acting like a child. And all of those things are some of the conclusions that people come to in their relationship with you, or even your relationship with yourself, is the reason why there is such a harsh criticism that you have towards yourself, that critic voice that is very harsh towards you. And every time you get disappointed again and again in yourself, so much that you are beginning to believe, or you already believe, that you are a failure, that you can't amount to anything, that you are not able to, do anything good, and all of this. Now, I'm here to tell you that those unhealed wounds, rather, that you carry in your backpack is costing you a lot. There is a price, an hidden price that you are paying every day you are walking in disconnection. You see that? And in order for us to understand this cost, because I'm going to analyze it for us, I decided to break it down into 3 segments. The emotional cost of disconnection, that's the first part. The relational cost of disconnection, and then the spiritual cost of reconnection. And what I want you to do for me, for those of us that are on Zoom, is I want you to put in as I'm showing you this cost, I want you to put it in the chat box, any of this cost that you can relate with, that you may have experienced, that you may have seen around you. I want you to just type it in the chat box as I'm showing you this cost. So I'm going to start with the emotional cost. What exactly is it costing you emotionally to walk in disconnection? This is in no particular order. The first thing is anxiety, chronic anxiety, and fear of abandonment. where we constantly embrace disappointment, where we scan relationship for signs of rejection. We are not always at peace. It is as though we are expecting this rejection based on the past experiences that we've had. So because of the fear of rejection, we are always locked with anxiety. Depression is another cost. That even in good moments, we still feel that weighty pressure pressing us down, making joy seem distant. You see that? Depression, it feels like a heavy blanket that covers you. A typical one is anger. An anger that seems disproportionate. An anger that you use to mask what is really happening underneath, the wound that is underneath. That any slight thing, it triggers an outsized reactions. And this anger is an attempt to mask the pain from wounds that were never fully healed. Numbness, that's another emotional cost. Numbness. And this is also very common when we lose the ability to fully experience love, excitement, hope. We feel trapped in an emotional grayness. It's like having an expressionless face. We just feel numb. It's very hard to express how we truly feel, especially when it comes to positive emotions. You see that? When we bring it down to relational cost, what is it costing you when it comes to your relationship with others? Part of what we see is that disconnection brings you to that place where you build walls around yourself. Now, bear in mind that when it comes to relationship, what we build are bridges. Bridges that help us to establish relationship and build that robust bond between whoever it is we're establishing that relationship with. So instead of building bridges, disconnection brings you to that place where you begin to build walls, protective walls. Now, you are not building this wall because you just want to be in the wall. You are building it to protect yourself from being hurt. And then it becomes an habit. You won't allow others to get too close to you. You keep them at arm's length. And you won't get too close to other people. And it's your attempt to protect yourself from being hurt that I would rather maintain my distance instead of getting hurt. And so we are not able to establish true connection with people around us. The second relational cost is what I call sabotaging relationships, where we push people away, where we create conflict before the people have the chance to reject us. Remember, all of these things is a product of an unhealed wound from rejection. So you are sabotaging the relationship in an attempt to ensure that you will not suffer the same rejection. So let me cause the conflict before they caused it. And all of this is an assumption, a conclusion based on a past experience. You see that? I've seen an individual because of the abusive relationship that they've been in the past. Now they found themselves in what appears to be an healthy relationship. But once and again, every little conflict, which is normal in relationship, in order to establish a robust understanding of each other, there will be conflict, there will be repair, and then you get to know yourself. But in this case, because of the past experiences, when there are conflicts, just little conflict, the party, the spouse that had experienced abusive relationship before takes it out of proportion. It is better to be in control of the fight so that I won't get hurt. Let it be that I'm the one that break up the relationship so that they won't break my heart. And because of these, relationships are being sabotaged. And the third thing is people pleasing to avoid disapproval. It's a relational cost where we compromise our values, where we compromise who we are in order to keep people or in order to gain acceptance from others, validation from others. We end up losing ourselves in order to gain this acceptance. So we become people pleasing. Now, on the outside, people might be saying, wow, you are a very kind person. You are always there for them. You can go over and beyond to ensure everything is okay for them. Now, as beautiful as those compliments might be, the question is, are you losing yourself in the process of offering all of these things or not? Are you compromising your values just to gain an approval or the applause of men? It's a relational cost. It's a symptom, it's a sign that there is an unhealed wound. And the final relational cost I have here is what I called isolation disguised as independence. Now, this is very common among men, where you pride yourself on self-sufficiency. I don't need anyone. I'm okay by myself. I can do it all by myself. I can sort it out all by myself. And on the outside, you paint a picture of independence. But on the inside, you are in isolation. There's loneliness. There's longing for connection. You envy other people that are enjoying the benefits of connection. But on the outside, you want to be a strong fellow that doesn't need anyone. And all of this is costing you the robust relationship that you could have built with your community and with the world around you. Even in marriages, we see the same, where the man shouldered all the responsibility and believed that as the man of the house, I'm the provider. I want to make sure that I do everything so that my family will not suffer. And the excuses for doing all of these things will sound genuine, except that the weight of isolation is just too much to bear. And many times people are dying within because of unrealistic expectation that they place on themselves. Whereas if we can understand the power of interdependence, I've taught you that, and establish the connection, strategic partnership that empowers both parties in the relationship to take mutual responsibility to the end that you can achieve a common goal. It will benefit both parties. It will strengthen the relationship. It will help you to understand each other. And it becomes a model to the world around you. You see that self-sufficiency painting a picture of independence, whereas this is isolation in disguise. So what is it costing you spiritually? The number one spiritual cost is that this wound of rejection changes your lens. It changes the way you see God. So you filter God from the lens of human rejection. Your understanding of love, your understanding of trust and acceptance is filtered from that past wound. So this affects our spiritual perception. So when God says, I love you, you are my beloved son or daughter, the way your mind is interpreting that is based on the experiences that you have in the past. Is the reason that despite knowing that God loves you, you still find it difficult to trust or to fully accept those words. The second thing I have here, excuse me, is believing lies about your worth and your identity. One of the things that rejection does is that it gives you an identity that makes you feel, or maybe I should say, a sense of identity. You feel unworthy. You feel unlovable. You see that? A typical example is a situation of divorce. And the children begins to think that could it be that they are the one that causes this divorce? Could it be that it's not worth staying with them? That they are not unlovable? That is why maybe their father or their mother had to walk away. You see that? So it begins to give them a sense of identity that is not according to their design. They feel unworthy. They feel unlovable. And even when you read your Bible, it's easier for you to pull away from the things that God says about you than to accept them. Because those experiences has created numerous lies for you. And this leads to the third cost, which is living below your divine design. Remember those two guys that were embarking on a journey. Their destination is the same. What the rocks in the other guy's backpack did was that it limited his potential. It kept him from stepping into the fullness of his purpose or calling. It becomes a burden on the path of destiny. And every time we carry wounds, unhealed wounds like that, it has a way of doing the same to us, limiting our potential, keeping us from walking fully in our purpose. And finally, struggling to receive love from God, which I mentioned earlier. Now, when you look at this cost, the emotional cost, the relational cost, and the spiritual cost, you can't help but to ask the question, is it actually worth this cost to stay in disconnection? If this cost is this heavy, why is it that we see all around us people carrying the wound of rejection? You would expect that with this cost, it should be easier to run towards connection. Why is it that people often stay stuck in this rejection, trauma, or cycle of disconnection? The first thing I want you to know, which I'm about to answer that question, the first thing I want you to know is that This is a trap. We call it the familiar pain trap. And what that means is that our life, we feel safe when we find ourselves in an environment that is predictable as human beings. Okay? So familiarity feels safer to us because it is predictable. At least I know what to expect. So people would rather embrace a familiar pain than to embrace the freedom of unknown. You see that? It's the reason why many people stay stuck in this trap of disconnection. The second reason why people stay stuck is because the moment you make up your mind to embark on the journey of healing, it brings you face to face with that one word that many of us have been discouraged about again and again, and that word is vulnerability. Because our world has made us feel that vulnerability is dangerous. And the truth is that it is a risk. But there is no healing without vulnerability. And because of the fear of being vulnerable, if A, B, and C knows what I'm really going through, will they still be my friend? If my spouse or my husband to be knows what had happened to me in the past, will they still go ahead with this relationship, with this marriage? You see that? It makes the journey of healing to become a very daunting one that many people shy away from. And this is one of the things that is responsible for being stuck. Number three thing that is responsible for being stuck is that every time there is a wound from trauma, it has the ability to project an identity towards us. That is, it becomes part of our identity. In fact, we've built our entire identity around our wounds many times. It's the reason why many people have not even imagined themselves or see themselves outside of that reality, despite praying for deliverance, for healing. But if you ask yourself, have you seen yourself out of it? It's very hard to see because their identity is tied to that wound. So the journey of healing is like taking their identity away from them. It feels like they can't understand themselves again. I don't even know who I am. And this can be very overwhelming. It can cause mental breakdown. And in order to avoid all of this on the path of healing is the reason why many people find themselves stuck. And the final reason why people find themselves stuck in this familiar pain is the inability or unwillingness to take responsibility. When we talk about freedom, freedom actually means responsibility. It means you are ready to take responsibility for your healing. Remember the children of Israel. As long as they are a slave in Egypt, they don't have much responsibility. They just take instruction. They don't have agency over their lives. But then they cry for deliverance, only for God to deliver them. And I was expecting them to rejoice all the way to the promised land because they have been delivered. But guess what? They always turn back to Egypt. Every time there is a demand to take responsibility, they want to escape back to slavery. So there are many desires for deliverances, healings that people talk about. But we need to ask ourselves, are we ready to take responsibility? Because freedom comes with what? With responsibilities. So we now find ourselves in a world where the cost of disconnection is too much to bear. The anxiety, the depression, the anger, rage, the unhealthy coping strategy, and all of the things, the relational cost, the spiritual cost, all of the things that I just mentioned to you is too heavy. And we continue to find a way to repair, not to rebuild. Whereas healing requires rebuilding, not repair. But because of the familiarity of what we are going through, we do not want to lose touch of it, because losing touch of it means losing touch with yourself. Necessarily, because your identity is built around the wound, remember? So we are looking for a way to patch the things, to repair. And because of this, we establish what I call counterfeit connections. And these counterfeit connections is an attempt to find relief from the price that you pay on a daily basis, the price of depression, the price of anxiety, the price that rejection continues to cost you. So we establish counterfeit connections. They are substitutes for real connections. And it is because of these counterfeit connections that words like addictions, dependencies began to find expression in our world. So we see people addicted to different things, just as an attempt to escape from the pain of disconnection. You see that? We see even achievement addictions, where people think that they need to earn love, that if I can accomplish enough, I will finally be worthy of love. So we find people in marriages, instead of complementing each other, they end up competing with each other with the hope that that's the only way they can become a person of value in the sight of their spouses. And that continue to draw them apart more and more. In the moment, it offers a temporary relief, but at the end, it delivers a deeper bondage. The emptiness becomes even greater. You see that? We see what I called performance perfectionists. That I want everything to be perfect. That if I ever make mistakes, people will not accept me. But if I can do it without making any mistake, perfect it, people will no longer reject me. And all of these things are counterfeit connections that give us that temporary relief from the price that we pay for being disconnected. There are different compulsions. In relationships, we see control compulsion, where one member of the party of the relationship wants to take control, want to be the one in charge of everything. That if I can control everything, I can prevent a future pain. And so manipulation comes in. Try to dominate another person. Try to silence the voice of another person with the hope that you are trying to prevent a future pain by being in charge of everything. You see that? We see substance dependencies, substances like alcohol and different kinds of drugs, just to numb that pain temporarily, to experience a temporary form of pleasure and escape from that pain for the moment. It's the reason why we have toxic relationships. Because it's better to have bad connections than to have no connection. You see that? So all of these counterfeits, they only promise a temporary relief, but not freedom. Now, when you look at the anatomy of rejection, you realize that there are three major things. It's like three layers. Because I've also found a situation where people began to criticize those that have gone through traumatic experiences. But this thing happened when you were a child, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10 years ago. Why are you still crying about it? You need to grow up and leave what is in the past to the past. What we do not understand is that the event is just the first layer. And it's usually not the problem. The challenge is the interpretation you give to that event. You see that? The interpretation you give it. And the interpretation you give it is what determines how it will shape your life. The third layer is believing or agreeing with that interpretation. I cited an example of a situation of divorce the other time, where maybe the father walked away from the marriage. That's the event, divorce. And then a 4-year-old child is beginning to think, could it be that I wasn't worthy staying for? That's the reason why daddy walked away. You see the interpretation. And that interpretation gives that child an identity that they are unlovable. It may not even be divorce. It could be neglect, emotional neglect in the family, where one of the spouse is busy doing a lot of work without having time for the family. Although he or she is the one putting food on the table and all of that, but the definition of love from the child's perspective is different from how the parent is expressing it. It's a neglect on the child's part. And they began to think, could it be that I'm not worthy of receiving my parents' time and attention? That they are competing with their job, the children competing with the parents' job. And every time the job is chosen ahead of them. Because as children, we fill the gaps when we don't understand completely. And many of these traumas, many of them start from childhood. So it doesn't matter where you are now. You are 50, 60, 70, 20, 30, whatever age it is. I told us last week, this wound doesn't heal by themselves. There has to be an intentional step towards healing. It's not an automatic thing. So the impact of what happens in your childhood can begin to shape your adulthood. And so if we do not go down to the root and stop living in denial of these things, you realize that you are doing the same thing again and again. You are getting the same results. You are getting frustrated. You are living with guilt. And you are wondering, am I even good for anything? So in breaking this cycle, the first step is not prayer. For those of us that are very religious, the first step is not fasting. The first step is awareness, recognition, not so that you can be guilty, not so that you can blame people that inflicted this on you, not so that you can feel condemned. No, it is recognition without condemnation. Anything you are unable to identify, you can deal with it. It's the reason why there is a saying that the fact that you are able to identify the problem is your first step towards solution. An average person is living in denial of the experiences of their past without knowing the impact that those experiences continue to have in their current lives, in their relationships with others, with God, with their children, with their spouse, or in whatever context that they find themselves. So the first step is awareness. You need to be sensitized. And that's what I'm doing, into recognizing that this outsized anger, this anxiety, this depression, it's not just about this is who I am. You need to take me for who I am. You need to ask yourself, how did I come about this? Some of you, it might even be a generational thing. You see it in your parents. You are seeing it in yourself. And if you are not careful, you might say, this is who we are in our family. The question is, are you willing to create a new pattern, or you want to continue repairing and patching and then trade it to the next generation? That's what we call tradition. Tradition actually means to trade an idea from the past generation to the next, or current generation to the next generation. By the time it gets to the next generation, it becomes a tradition. So what tradition are you sending to the next generation? But you can make a decision to create a new pattern instead of repairing, to start rebuilding. You see that? So I want us to take a moment of reflection and prayer as I'm rounding up now. Reflection to think back. What are some of the things that you have noticed in your current lives? What are the go-to counterfeit connections? And this is an assignment as well. Go-to counterfeit connections that you have established. For some of us, it's social media. Every time we feel overwhelmed, we resort into scrolling, dumb scrolling. For some of us, there are certain behaviors that have become addictive. For some, they are substances. For some of you, you dip your head in work, achievement addiction, or performance perfectionist. What is your go-to counterfeit connection? Identify it. Before you can replace and begin to rebuild, you need to identify first. And that's the assignment that I'm giving you. I hope we understand this. So I don't know what you want to say to the Lord. But one thing I know is that part of the assignment of the Holy Spirit is to bring us to remembrance. What is it in my past that is a stumbling block on my journey into the future? Open my eyes to see, to identify, so that I can deal with it from now. Can you take that moment